Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulihil Kareem. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. This is part one of English translation of the talk, Keep Your Financial Transactions Clean by Mufti Taqi Usmani Damat Barakatuhum. O you who believe, do not devour each other's property by false means, unless it is trade conducted with your mutual consent. Do not kill one another. Indeed, Allah has been very merciful to you. Surah 4, verse 29. The verse that has just been recited is about a very important area of deen, which is keeping one's mamlat clean. In Sharia, the term mamlat is inclusive of all sorts of financial transactions we conduct. For example, buying, selling, or borrowing something, conducting our own business, or ensuring we are fulfilling the requirements and conditions of our employment contract. Unfortunately, these days we have almost completely excluded this very important aspect of deen from our lives. We have restricted deen to a few ibadat like namaz, roza, hajj, and zakat. But when it comes to buying and selling and conducting business, we behave as if it's not even a part of deen. If one looks at the commandments of Sharia as a whole, only one-fourth of the commandments are about ibadat, and three-fourths are about mamlat and mashrat. Mamlat, as I said, is is inclusive of all the financial transactions. Mashrat means the way we interact with other people. For example, how we treat our parents, our children, our neighbors, our employees, etc. There is a famous book of fiqh called Hidayah. Fiqh means Islamic jurisprudence. This book contains all the laws of Sharia from laws relating to cleanliness to inheritance. There are four volumes of this book. The first volume is about ibadat or acts of worship, in which the laws about cleanliness, namaz, zakat, roza, and hajj have all been described. The other three volumes relate to mamlat and mashrat. This gives us some indication that only about one-fourth of Sharia's laws relate to ibadat, while three-quarters relate to financial transactions and how we relate to other people, which are aspects we do not even consider that they are part of deen. Allah Ta'ala has deemed mamlat so important that if a person is not mindful of haram and halal in their monetary dealings, uh, then this also affects the acceptance of their acts of worship. In Sharia's terms, haram means unlawful and is a much broader concept than just some kinds of prohibited meat. Even if people meet the mandatory requirement of performing these ibadat, they do not receive the sawab and blessings from these ibadat, and their prayers are not accepted. In a hadith, the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that there are many people who debase themselves in front of Allah Ta'ala, in that their hair are scattered, and they beg and cry while praying, "O Allah, please grant me this or that." They pray very meekly, but their food is haram, what they drink is haram, what they are wearing is haram, and their whole body has been raised on haram income. How can such a person's prayer be accepted? It is easy to do repentance, that is tawbah, and atonement if a person has made mistakes or being negligent of ibadat. For example, if a person was negligent of offering first salah in his life, then he can start offering qaza salah. Qaza means all the salah that he had previously not prayed when it was due. And he can make a will that if he dies before he can offer all of his qaza salah, then fidya means financial recompense, can be paid against the remaining salah from his inheritance. On the other hand, if a person has stolen money from someone or taken it from someone against their will, then regardless of how much repentance he does, his sins will not be forgiven until and unless the person whose money he had taken forgives him. For this reason, when training someone in the way of tasawwuf means purification of one's inner self. Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi Rahmatullah Alayhi used to place the greatest emphasis on transparency of mamlat, meaning financial transactions. He used to say that if he found out about any of his disciples that they did not complete zikr as advised, zikr means a recitation of Allah's name or doing tasbih, he felt sad and told them to perform it as advised. But we heard about any of his disciples that they had embezzled some money or defrauded someone. He got extremely angry. There was a disciple of Hazrat Tanvi Rahmatullah alayh who he had allowed to take bath from other people. Bath means giving permission to someone to mentor other people in tasawwuf. Once he had traveled to come to meet Hazrat Thanvi Rahmatullah alayh. He had also brought his young son with him. He introduced his son and requested Hazrat Thanvi Rahmatullah alayh to pray for his son. Hazrat Thanvi Rahmatullah alayh prayed for the child and just as a part of conversation asked him how old the child was. He replied that the child was 13 years old. Hazrat Thanvi Rahmatullah alayh asked him that while traveling on the train, while he had whether he had taken half or full ticket for the child. He replied that he had bought half ticket for the child. Hazrat Thanvi Rahmatullah asked, why did you buy half ticket for your son when the railway law clearly says that a child over 12 has to travel on a full ticket? He said, Hazrat, I know the law says that a child over 12 has to travel on a full ticket, but as he looks very young, that's why I bought a half ticket for him. Hazrat Thanvi Rahmatullah said, Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. It means like you haven't even begun to develop the most basic understanding of tasawwuf. You have not even realized that your son's traveling on half ticket was haram. You stole half a ticket's fare from the railway company. This is theft, and whoever engages in theft cannot be a Sufi. Therefore, you are not allowed to supervise disciples in tasawwuf anymore. Even though this person was performing his acts of worship, his recitation of Allah's name, his prayers, but because of this error of judgment that he did not buy a full ticket for his son as he should have, Hazrat Thanvi Rahmatullah revoked his permission to take bath from people. Hazrat Thanvi Rahmatullah always advised all his disciples that if you are traveling by train and are carrying more luggage than the railway company entitles you to on a passenger ticket, then get your luggage weighed and pay the extra baggage charge. Hazrat himself once went to the railway station to travel by train. He took his luggage to the office where the baggage was weighed and was waiting in the queue. By chance, the guard of the train came and recognized Hazrat Thanvi Rahmatullah. He asked, Hazrat, what are you doing? Hazrat replied that he was waiting to get his luggage weighed. The guard said, you do not need to get your luggage weighed. I'm going in the same train, so it's okay. Hazrat Thanvi asked him, how far will you go with me? He replied, I'll go up to such and such station. Hazrat said, and after that? The guard said, then another guard will board the train at that station. I'll tell him that this is your luggage and not to inquire about it. Hazrat asked, and after that? The guard replied in surprise, he will go to such and such station and there your journey will end. Hazrat said, no, my journey will not end there. I have another destination after that, which is my grave and the akhirat, the hereafter. Which guard will accompany me there? When I am asked the question on the day of judgment as to why did I travel on government's train without paying the full fare for my luggage and stole money from the government, who is going to answer that question on my behalf? This is the end of part one of the talk. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.